Ready? Up and at 'em. At 'em, man. All right. So, Shabbat Shalom. Sahoraim Tovim. Baruch haba. Welcome. Baruch haba means welcome. Blessed is he. It means literally means blessed is he, but that's how you welcome. Like if somebody shows up at your house, if you're in Israel and somebody shows up at your house and rings your doorbell and you're inviting them in and you say Baruch haba. So blessed is he. You're saying you're blessing them in as they come into your house, but that's how you say welcome. So Baruch haba le Harlingen Messianic Synagogue, Beit Harlingen Mashachim. All right. So last week we were on the letter Bet. So if you go back to Bet, if you go to Bet for just a second. So looking at the letter Bet, do you remember the last things that I was telling you about Bet? Does anybody remember? Bet is used as a preposition, not a preposition. Yes, no. What's the form of speech? I don't know. It's gone. Which means in. Preposition. Okay. So be at the beginning of a word means in or on. En español es en. Okay. Que significa in or on. It can be either one, right? In Spanish, it can be either in or on. Hebrew's the same. In English, it's it's in or on. Okay, so so last week, the reason why I'm telling you this, last week you had a good example of it being used as a preposition in the title of the parasha, as in Bechar. Okay, so this is the way Bechar would look in the Hebrew. Okay, so you have the Be He Resh. Okay, and so here, remember what I told you, the colon shortens it. There's no sound. It shortens the sound. So a lot of times you'll see this written as with an E in here. But technically it's more like an apostrophe because it's not a full E. It's not Bechar, like the county in San Antonio. Okay, it's not Bechar. It's Bechar. So it's a very short sound, Bechar. It's just getting the B out. Bechar. Okay? Har, so here you would have the transliteration, the Bet He Resh. Okay, so it's Bechar. Everyone say Bechar. 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 Oh, here's it written in the way you would left to right. All right? And so the title is On the Mountain. Har is the way you say mountain. Har. Okay? So in Hebrew, where are they at? Okay, but in Hebrew, but where are they at? In Bechar, where are they at? Sinai. Okay, we say Sinai, but in Hebrew it's Sinai. 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 Okay, say it. Sinai. Sinai. So it's Had Sinai. Mount Sinai. Had Sinai. Okay? Har Kodesh, the holy mountain. Har Zion, Mount Zion. Har Carmel, Mount Carmel. So Har. So whenever, if you look on the maps of Israel, Google Maps or whatever, Google Earth, and you will see Har this and Har that, which means mountain. Okay, so the B is on. So literally, you actually have this it's written in Hebrew as one word, but it's actually two words in English. Bechar, on the mountain. Okay. So today, can you give me a paper towel, please? Yes, that's good. remember the dagesh goes in the middle, the difference between B and V. B and the. Okay? Let's see. Okay, so here you have another one. This is today's lesson. This is today's parasha. Bechukotai. 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 Now you see the bait. Again with the colon underneath. Okay? Meaning that the sound is very short. Bechu. Okay? This is a chet with the sound, with the vowel of U underneath it. Bechu. Bechu. And then this is a kaf, which is a K sound. Ka. Bechu. Ko. And see the dot up here is going to make it, oh, we'll get into that later. Bechu ko tav ta yi. Bechu ko ta yi. Bechukotai. Okay? So, again you have B, which means what? In or on. Okay, so you already know that. Whenever you see the B like that with the colon underneath it, that means in or on. Why? Because the bait is a house. You go in the house. So you could say that Moshe was on the mountain. You could say Moshe was in the mountain. You can say I'm on the way, or you can say I'm in the way. Either one in Hebrew is correct. Both, the answer to both is yes. Okay? And chotai, it's written, it's translated, we translate chotai, chochek, as statutes, but it's the word, it's from where we get the word halakha. Halakha meaning form. Halakha meaning the manner, the way that we do something. So when we talk about halakha, we're talking about what is proper. This is the way we do things. So the halakha is that we say, that we're supposed to say shachrit as the sun is rising. That's the halakha. Okay? That's the custom. Okay? So from chukotai, that's where we get our word, chukot is where we get our word halakha. The way. This is the way we do things. Okay? So when you're reading Jewish literature and you read halakha, you read halakhic. So a halakhic ruling, meaning that the rabbis have said this is the way it's to be done. Now the tie here, as Ciro explained in the earlier lesson, is possessive. Because it has the I-E here, it's plural. But right here, this little mark right here, is the vowel for E. Say E. And that, when it comes at the end of a noun, it makes it first person possessive. First person possessive, meaning my. Meaning my. So, bechukotai, in my statutes, in my ways. Okay? In my ways. Why? What is this? because you have this word here. You have this Hebrew word here. Notice the aleph. Ani, which is first person. I or me. Either way. Just like in Spanish, you say yo, it can be I or me. Okay? So ani is first person. So when you add this formula to a noun, that makes it first person possessive, my. So bechukotai, the E right here from ani, meaning my then. So thus, in my ways. Now the reason I'm showing you that is to show you the be being used as a preposition. Not just the fact it is a word in, translating it into another language, it is a word in itself. Be, meaning in or on. So, bechar, on the mountain. Bechuchotai, in my way, in my statutes. So, begin recognizing that when you see a B in the liturgy, when you see a B with an apostrophe next to it, that is the preposition on or in, or within. Remember, I told you we're doing the tree of life, We're doing the counting of the Omer, and so today is Machut Besheve Yesod, Besheve, meaning within, on the inside of. Okay, so Machut, inside of Yesod. Nobility, inside of bonding. All right, so let's go to our letter for today is Gimel. Let's do do we have the three letters up? Go back to the three letters. You have to go back. There you go. So Aleph, Bet, Gimel. Remember? Here we go. Aleph, Bet, Gimel. Again. 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 Aleph, Bet, Gimel. All right. So let's go to Gimel. Let's begin Gimel. Gimel, literally. Technically, Gimel. Because remember that the emphasis is on the emphasis is on the final syllable almost always. Okay? It's almost always. Remember, I also told you that when you see... do not like this. No, it's this. It's interference. Remember, I told you that when you see this marking, this vowel, and then you have a consonant, that's lamed, and then you have it again, that is one of the... That's one of the times, that's the what do you call it? The out of the ordinary. That's the exception to the rule. Thank you. Okay? That's the exception to the rule, where when you have this, which is a short E and a short E and an L. Short E, L. So so then it goes on the first syllable, not the second syllable. Ele. So tefelet. Okay? So you have tefelet. It's not tefelet, it's tefelet. Because why? Because you have this and this together. The accent will be on the first syllable, not the last syllable, when you have this vowel situation. So it's not techelet, the blue of the tzitzi. It's not techelet, it's techelet. Okay? So usually, most words in Hebrew, it's ta 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 ta. The emphasis is on the final syllable. Except the exception is when you have a double segol, a double E sound. Then it goes to the first syllable. So not techelet, but techelet. Okay? Everybody understand? Okay, so that's a refresher. We hit that last week as well. Just wanted to remind you. All right, so today is Gimel. Gimel, not Gimel. Gimel. Okay, we're not Ashkenazim. Okay, we're not white folk. You know, we're trying not to talk with the European accent. We're trying to talk with the Sephardic accent, which is what is used in Israel, and that is becoming the common Hebrew. Okay, that is becoming the common Hebrew. And in fact, even Ashkenazim, the white European Jews who moved to Israel, switch over to Sephardic pronunciation. Now remember what I told you. My rabbi taught me, be consistent. Choose which accent you're going to use, and be consistent with it. If you're going to speak like an Ashkenaz, then speak like an Ashkenaz all the time. If you're going to speak like a Sephard, then speak like a Sephard all the time. Don't switch it back and forth because it becomes confusing to you and the listener. Why? Because accenting is part of the description. Where you put the accent on the word is actually helping to define the word. So be consistent with it. Okay? It's not just about which consonant's going where, which vowel's going where. It's also about where you're putting the emphasis on the word. So be consistent in your pronunciation, in your enunciation. Okay? Another thing that we need to take care of in speaking the liturgy or in reading the Torah, slow down. Why? Well, because you don't want to say the wrong thing. You're standing before the king. You want to be careful that you're making the right pronunciation. Saying, you don't want to be in this enormous, powerful ceremony before the great judge. And you sound like a redneck. Okay? Right? That's why people, when they're going to make a speech, what do? They practice. And practice and practice and practice. That's how Cyril's getting to do what he's doing. Because I know he spends a lot of time practicing, because you can't chant this without practicing. And it's very difficult to get up and just... Even the rabbis who have been studying for years, they practice chanting the Torah portion over and over and over to make sure they get it right. Why? Because you're standing before the creator of the universe. He's the King of Kings. Well, he knows my heart. Wrong answer. Yes, he knows your heart. And the heart is, what did we read this morning? In Jeremiah. So we're not, what it's saying is, we're not being careful. So we're not being careful. We need to be careful. Why? This is important stuff. There's power in this. In the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai. By the way, do you know why we cover our eyes in the Shema? We sit down, as Sita was explaining, we sit down and we cover our eyes because it says Shema. By the way, when you cover your eyes, you also close them. You cover your eyes and you say Shema because Shema means, it does not mean see. It means hear. So in Judaism, everything has a purpose. You cover your eyes because the word says hear, not see. So you're forcing yourself to listen. By the way, and in the Amida, we call them the silent prayers, but they're not so silent. You must whisper to a point where you can hear your own voice because you must hear the words. It's not silent as in you're quietly, you're not saying anything, you're just reading it. No. You must be speaking them because it's from here to here. You're hearing your own voice. Now, the Amidah is supposed to be spoken at such a level that your neighbor next door to you, or your neighbor next to you, standing next to you, can hear your voice but cannot distinguish the word. But you can distinguish the word. But if you see the Shema written in the Torah scroll, it will look like this. That's the word echad. But I want you to notice the Dalit. If you see in the Torah scroll, when you read it in the Torah scroll, the Dalit is giant. The Dalit is giant. It's very dark, very bold printing in the Torah scroll. And so why is the Dalit so big in the Torah scroll? So that you don't mistake it for a resh. Now, this is what I'm saying, that you must be careful with your pronunciation. Because if I say echad with a resh instead of echad, I'm saying another one rather than echad, one. Therefore, if I say the resh, then I say Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. God forbid. I'm saying, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is another. And so Moshe said, that won't do. So he made the Dalit real big, and you are supposed to emphasize the Dalit on the Shema when you're speaking it. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. And you will hear in Orthodox synagogues, you will hear them go duh, to make sure that they are saying duh and not re. So be careful with your enunciation. It is important enough to where Moshe made a giant Dalit there so that you would say it correctly. Telling us that it is important to speak it correctly. Okay? Which means what? We're taking care. If we're taking care, it means I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. Now, all of us get in a hurry. All of us make mistakes. All of us are like just trying to, and then we get like all tongue twisted and whatever. Do you know that when you get tongue twisted, the rabbis tell us, the Chazal say that means you're not focusing, you're not putting enough attention on the word. You're allowing your mind to drift here and there and get distracted or whatever, and you may not get distracted. Therefore, if you get distracted, i.e. you stumble, i.e. you fumble, i.e. you must start over. Not just where you are, you must, not just that word, you must start the blessing over because you fumbled the blessing. So you have to go back to the beginning of the blessing and start it over again. It's important that we take the time and the care to do it right. And by doing this, we're showing God that we care enough about this to do it right. So I remember when I was in high school, I had a girlfriend. It was a 2-week affair. I had a girlfriend. And we were forbidden in our family from touching members of the opposite sex. I.e., we were not even supposed to like hold hands or much less kiss or hug or anything like that. So we were not even permitted. In fact, we had a rule in church that if you were sitting next to a girl in church or a girl was sitting next to a guy in church, that they had to have a hymn book between to keep the space there, so you're not hoochie coochie on the bench, on the pew. And so you had to have or a Bible. Why a Bible? Because my dad would say it's hard. It's hard for you to get through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to get to Sarah or whomever. Okay, so but you had to have some space. But we were forbidden from holding hands or anything like that. So, well, I wanted to hold this girl's hand. So I was doing it on the slide, doing it under the hymn. We had the hymn book. We would hold the hymn book out here, and then I had her pinky and my pinky like this underneath, holding onto the hymn book. Oh, I was a sneaky. I know. She finally got disgusted. This is before I knew Wilma, so you can tell her anything you want. She told me, look. That's always a bad thing when your girlfriend tells you, look. Look. If you're going to do it right. Saying what? If you really care, show me you care. Saying, if you're going to do it, if we're going to do this Jewish thing, do it right. You see, one of the issues in both Messianic Judaism and a lot of normative Judaism is they don't bother. It's just a thing. It's just another thing. If you're going to wear the tzitzit, wear them right. If you're going to wear a talit, wear them right. If you're going to say the brachot, say them right. If you're going to do it the right way. And we have been shown, we have been given the right way to do it. That's why we're learning what we're learning. Otherwise, the truth is, we're just being slovenly about it. We don't care. We don't care that much about it. Because if we really care about something, we're going to take care of it. When we don't take care of it, that means that our heart, our focus, our attention is actually on something else. Which means we're doing that which is most forbidden in Judaism. We're going through the motions. In Judaism, we are not permitted to memorize the liturgy. You must not memorize the liturgy. And even if you know the liturgy, you must still read it off of the page. So we need to be careful. So Gimel. Say Gimel. Gimel. All right, next point. So this is the paleograph of the Gimel. Looks like an L. Looks like an L. So this is the way Moshe would have written the Gimel. Okay? And its number is 3. Because it's the third letter of the Aleph Bet. So Gimel equals 3. 3 equals Gimel. When you get into Gematria, 3 equals Gimel. Gimel equals 3. So, last week we did Aleph plus Bet. Which is Aleph equals what? Bet equals, so 1 plus 2 equals, so Aleph plus Bet equals Gimel. Now you're going to see how this all ties together, and it's going to be cool. In fact, it's one of those moments. All right? So, next. So, Gimel is the third letter of the alphabet. Now, it has the sound of a hard G, but what we mean by the hard G is from the back of the throat. It's a guttural. We get the word guttural from the G, from the Gimel. It's not G, it's G. Gimel. All right? So, there is no G or J sound. There is no J in Hebrew. So, we have the anglicized word, name, Jesus. Where does that come from? Quick lesson for you. Now, is it okay for you to say Jesus? Yes, because that is what he is known by in the common English world. We use his Hebrew name. Where did Jesus come from? It is not a form of the Greek god Zeus, as the rumor is on the internet. It must be so because I heard it on the internet. Well, you don't hear things on the internet, you see them. But anyway, that's a different story. It comes from the Teutonic language. Teutonic meaning the Germanic languages. English is a Teutonic tribe. The English are Teutonics. They are Germans. By the way, the family, the royal family are not even British. They're German. Check it out. They changed their name during World War II from their German name to an English name because the King Edward was afraid that the British were going to think he was too pro-German because they are Germans. And so he changed his name to the House of Windsor to make him sound more British. So, in German, the J is actually spoken as a Y. Yeah. So the way you say yes in German is written like this. It's written like this. But it's pronounced like this. Okay? So it's written like this, it's actually pronounced like this in the Teutonic languages. In English, over time, the J, which is actually a Y sound. By the way, the Y, so where does the Y come in? In the Teutonic languages, it comes at the end of a word to extend the E, as in say ye. Okay? As in bay ye, B-A-Y. The bay ye. Okay, so that's where the Y will always come at the end of a Teutonic word to extend that vowel. Never at the beginning. It's always a J at the beginning. That's where we came up with Jesus, because it was actually Jesus. Jesu is Latin. It's always Ye. It followed the Hebrew all the way up until relatively recent history, i.e. the 1700s, when the J was hardened to a J sound, as the double L is in Spanish sometimes. So, llévame. It's almost, it's a Y sound, but it's almost with your teeth. Llévame. All right? So, the same is true with this here, this word here. But you see, it's not Jonah. That's the modern English pronunciation. It is actually Yonah, which is correct. Which means is Hebrew for dove. Yonah. Since we're at Shavuot, the Ruach HaKodesh came upon Kim in the form of what? Going to whom? The Goyim. Yonah went to the Goyim, Nineveh. The dove went out among the nations. Okay, so next one. So Gimel comes from Gamel. Say Gamel. Camel, which means camel. So how is that a camel? It's a camel that's kneeling, basically. It's a camel on his knees. If you look at the Gimel up on the top, it's more like a camel that you're seeing the front end of the camel, the top of the head, and the 2 feet down at the bottom. But it is a camel, Gamel, which is where we get the English word camel from. Just the G hardened into a C. Okay? The Gamel is able to carry heavy loads, able to travel long distances, and able to endure extreme hardship. And because of this, the Gamel is he's the luxury means of transportation of their day. That's the Cadillac version. If you want the cheap, I don't care ride, that's the donkey. And the donkey, when the donkey gets to going, it's like this. If you've ever been on a trotting horse, and you see them, they're going up and down, and I've been on one, and it's like this, and it's hard to talk, and it doesn't feel very good very long. But the Gamel is a smooth walker. That's why he's called the ship of the desert, because there's just a gentle sway to it as he's moving along, even when he's running at full speed. When a camel is running at full speed, you hardly feel the body motion. It's just smooth. It's like riding in the old-time Lincolns. Just smooth. I mean, you don't even feel. I drove semi-truck for several months one summer, and they have air seats. They have air shocks on the seats. And so when you're driving, it's not like riding in a car where you're feeling the up and down and you're going up and down with the car, whatever, and you're enjoying. But because the seat itself is going up and down, therefore you're staying motionless, basically. It's the seat that's taking the shock. And that's the way it was with the camel. And so he was able to carry heavy loads. He's able to go long distances without water, no less. He's able to endure extreme hard. They can go through sandstorms unscathed, where it would rip the hide. Literally, if you want to know why the Bedouin wear the robes and everything like that, basically it's something to cover themselves up in the middle of a sandstorm. But the camel has such eyelids that will close and seal. Even his nostrils will close and seal in a sandstorm. And so the camel, because the camel had all of these means, it was the symbol of wealth of the day. The more camels you had, like a guy has 5 Lincoln Continentals, and today he chooses the next one to drive, right? Which Lincoln will I drive today? Which Cadillac will I drive today? Which Lamborghini will I drive today? This is why you read of Abraham having so many camels. Yitzhak gives to Esav so many camels. The next thing is this. But even though it could endure extreme hardship, he is one of the most gentle creatures. To the people, to the humans, it likes. Do you know that camels are known to weep at the death of their masters? If a camel has a good master, that camel, if the master dies, the camel will stay at the master's side until it also dies. Unless it's taken away. But it's also known to despise, particularly humans who treat it with cruelty. And it will spit on the person it despises. And the spit stinks. They will spit on a human they do not like. The Gimel is made of a Vav and a Yud. Okay? So you have a Vav and a Yud. Vav, we've been using Vav a lot. Vav is equal to what number? Vav is equal to what number? It's in the Aleph, it's in the Bet. Nope. 6. And the Yud is equal to what number? 10. Thus you have how many? 16. Thus you have, you'll learn. Thus you and it's okay, we haven't gotten there yet. Okay? So the Aleph, if you remember, the Aleph is made out of a Vav and 2 Yud. So you have 10, 6, and 6, which is 22, which is equal to Yud Ke Vav Ke, which is also 22. Okay? Remember that whenever two different words have the same sum, or two different letters have the same sum, there's a relationship between the two. So the word Elohim starts with Aleph, which means power, which means strength. So what is this all about? So watch. So you have Aleph plus Bet equals what? Gimel. Or 1 plus 2 equals 3. Everybody see that? Now let's put everything together that we've learned so far. Aleph is, what's the defining term of Aleph? Strength. Strength. Bet. What is the defining term of Bet? Who is the strength of the house? Av, Father. What is the defining term of Gimel? I just told you. What? It's right up there. No. What is the defining term? You need to go to the next one. Gimel, the defining term of Gimel is a rich man. The strength of the house is the father, who is a father. A father is a rich man. You see, these letters are next to each other because there's a relationship. A man who has a home, a good wife, and good children, he's a rich man. It's not about money. It's not about possessions. Remember that the Bait is actually a Bedouin's tent. That Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov refused to live in houses built by stone, but rather they lived in tents because they were seeking a city whose builder and maker is God himself. You are the rich man. You go around lusting after the big cars and the big bank accounts and all of the fancy things that this world can present, but they are the things of this world, and it's all a facade. You're rich, you're wealthy, and you don't even know it. And you leave behind that wealth so that you can chase after that which is a mirage. It's not about silver. And it's not about gold. It's about your child and your grandchild. It's about the people who are close to you. You see, the man who has a home and a good wife and good children, blessed is the man whose quiver is full. You want to know about that young man who shot up the school this week? He didn't have a daddy. He didn't even have a mama. He didn't even have a grandpa. Not really. All he had was grandma. And he became broken in his mind. And he became a soul without a purpose. And soul without purpose always leads to destruction. Always. You look at every one of these shootings, and it is a soul who has lost their way. It is a soul who has lost purpose. We call it nihilism. It's where we get the word annihilate. When you annihilate someone, when you say this team annihilates another team, that it destroys the other team, that it destroys the other person. It comes from nihilism. Nihilism means is the description of a person who has no purpose. He sees no purpose in his life. Thus he sets about destruction. Because he is, in truth, seeking to destroy himself. You see this young man, I can tell you. I don't have to do any psychoanalysis or any of that. I can tell you. He wanted to die. But a nihilist not only wants to die, he wants to destroy, so he wants to take as many as he can with him. And in their own warped sense, in a way, they're thinking that they're doing society a favor because they see no purpose for themselves and they think that there's no purpose in anybody else. You see, this is what happens when you give in fully to the animal instinct within you, and it becomes the survival of the fittest. Quit teaching our children that we're animals. And then being so shocked when they act like animals. You have a soul created by God. You have a spark of the divine within you. And that's what this young man failed to see. That you have purpose in life. And we, as God's society, need to quit chasing after the worldly things. You are already rich. The reason why life is so burdensome to us, and the reason why we have to work 3 jobs a week, and the wives have to go out and work. They're supposed to be at home taking care of the children and raising the children, but they have to be out with a job because we can't afford to live in today's society by today's comfort standards. But that's the issue, by today's comfort standards. Because Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov lived in tents. They lived simple lives, dedicated to the raising of their family. All Abraham and Sarah wanted was a son. Please, God, just give us a son. And we'll ask you for nothing else. Notice then it says, Gimel is a rich man, but not just a rich man. Look at him. He's running with his hand outstretched. He's running like this. This is Gimel. He's running like this. Why is his hand outstretched? Because in it is a gift. And who's next to Gimel? What's the next letter? Dalit, who is a poor man. The reason why Dalit is next to Gimel, which you'll find out next week, is because Dalit is the poor man, the rich man, and the Gimel is facing Dalit, saying that the rich man is running to give tzedakah to the poor. People today are rushing about to do evil. God says, no, you rush about to do good. When you see something good you can do, don't hesitate. In fact, run towards it. When you see people who need help, don't hesitate. Run to them with the help. Run to them with assistance. By the way, it is not a mitzvah to pray about everything. The rabbis tell us that. There is a time to pray. But there's also a time not to pray. To do. When God has already said in His Torah, do this, you don't have to pray about it. He's already told you do it. You don't have to ask Him if He wants you to do this. He's already told you He wants you to do this. You don't have to ask if it's His will. You already know it's His will. You see, all that is happening there, it's a human means to hesitate, to halt. I don't have to ask God's permission to give to the poor. And the giving is your choice. You don't have to ask God's permission. He's already told you to do it. But He gives you the freedom of choice, as we will see. Go to the next one. Gimel, the word gimul. The giving of a reward or a punishment. Freedom to choose. Saying it's up to you. You don't need to ask God if you need to give to this, if you should give to this person or not give to this person. That's up to you. That's your choice. God has put the money in your hand. He's put the resources in your hand. Now you choose what to do with it. Don't hesitate. The prophet said, how long will you halt between two decisions? How long will you vacillate? How long are you going to sit there on the fence? How long are you going to make up your mind and do it? Well, I'll pray and see what God wants. We had a man who is a friend of the synagogue, and he was on his way to, he plays the violin. He was on his way to Japan with the Messianic ministry to help them start a Messianic congregation in Japan. This was many years ago, several years ago. So he stopped by, and he would come by and play the violin for us from time to time. He stopped by and asked if we could help him out financially to take Torah to Japan. We said absolutely. We took up an offering that night and we gave it to him. Didn't know, no hesitation at all. And he told me, he says, I'm thoroughly amazed. I said, at what? He said, well, usually when I come to people, when I approach rabbis and pastors and whatever about this kind of thing, they'll tell me they'll pray about it. You didn't even bother to pray about it. You just said yes. Well, because that's the way it's supposed to be. You don't have to pray about those kinds of things. If you got the means, if God has put within you the resources to do something and you see the need in front of you, do it. That's why he gave you the resource, and that's why he put the need in front of you. Look, put 1 and 1 together. Put 1 and 2 together, and you come off with 3. Put Aleph and Bet together, and you will come off with Gimel. It's not rocket science. God, give me a sign. He gave you the sign. He gave you the resources. He gave you the need. Now put the 2 together. And God will bless you because you're being a blessing to someone else. In fact, the Rambam, Maimonides, makes a great issue of this thing of freedom of choice. So we were starting a ministry when I was a Baptist pastor. We were starting a new ministry, a cupboard, of which we would bring foods to help the poor. And we were explaining it to the congregation. And someone stood up and said, but we can't feed the whole world. No, but you can feed somebody. And what if that somebody would be you? God didn't call you to feed the world. But he did call you to feed somebody. He didn't call you to help the world, but he did call you to help somebody. You see, that's tikkun ha'olam, the reparation, the healing of the world, is by taking one spark and putting it back, rekindling one person at a time. And that's the job of every person. To do what you can, where you can, as you can. But the choice is yours. God leaves the choice up to you. You can stifle yourself, you can hesitate, you can pull back. But keep in mind as you do so, that Yeshua himself promises that as you treat other people, that's the way Hashem is going to treat you. Do unto others, or don't do. Either way you look at it. Two sides of the same coin. For as you do to others, as you do to someone else, so the Father in heaven is going to do to you. You see, the truth of the matter is that as Yehudim Meshachim, as Messianic Jews, that should fill all of our purpose, is finding and helping those who are in need. Reaching out to those who are in need. Doing for others. No hesitation. No thinking about it. No praying about it. Just do it. What he has already commanded you to do does not need permission to do. In what other venue of life do we act this way, where we need permission from God for something, where we need permission from somebody else when they've already told us? What if, your boss tells you to do something, and then you sit around and you wait for a while, your friend comes up and says, so are we going to do it? Well, I don't know. I need to ask the boss about it. Really? If you went to the boss tells you this is what I need done, and you wait around and hesitate about it, and then you go and ask the boss, do you want me to do this? You're probably going to be looking for another job. He already explained to you that you need to do this. Well, I need specification. No, you don't. You're making excuses. You're hesitating. The specification is what is in your heart and in your mind. That's why God gave it to you. You have the choice to do as you will. We do this because it feels spiritual and it sounds spiritual, but in truth, it's not spiritual. In truth, we're treading water and biding time. And it's not good. The Gimel runs to give aid. And this is one of the pillars of Judaism. Running to do demonstrates your freedom to choose. You say that you're a free person. This is what it is meant, free. That we are free. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land and unto all the inhabitants thereof. You are a free people. Thus you should rush to goodness. The word ratz, say ratz, ratz, means to run. It's from where we get the word ratzon, which means will. The will of God. Ratzon Adonai, ratzon Hashem, the will of God. We say beratzon Hashem. May God will it. May it be in the will of God. Be, there's the be, the preposition in. Be, ratzon, in the will, Hashem, of God. Beratzon Hashem. So when someone says to you, may you have a good life, beratzon Hashem, may it be God's will. The word ratzon comes from the word ratz, which means to run. What is there? Then you should run to do the will of God. Not walk slowly. The reason why we walk slowly to do the will of God is because inside, in our animal instinct, we don't want to do it. The animal is fighting us. And so we hesitate. Have you ever seen a cow that's been tied up without water for a few days? And they see water? They hear water? They smell water? And you let that cow loose, and there's no hesitation. In fact, I got dragged by a cow once, exactly that. A calf. I got dragged down the canal because she was running to where there was fresh food. Because she had gotten caught up in the trees and all, and had been without food. And when I untied her, she saw the green grass over there and she bolted. There's no hesitation. You ought to run to do the will of God. Next slide. The act of the will upon the soul directly affects the physical realm, saying, when you act in a spiritual way, there come physical results. When you do the will of God, there come about physical results. That person's need has been met, and your soul is satisfied. As one does in this world, the Rambam said, as one does in this world, so shall the reward or punishment be in Olam Haba. As you have acted in this life, so will be your reward or punishment in the life to come. I.e., as you have treated others, so the Father in heaven is going to treat you. This is why he says, many shall come to me, and I will say, I never knew you. Torah says, today, in this world, do them, from which the sages infer, tomorrow, in the world to come, you receive your reward. To do a temporary thing, which is this life, in order to gain an eternal reward, which is in the life to come, makes it worth it all. You see, we're wanting instant gratification and instant results. But that's not the promise of Hashem to you. The promise of Hashem to you is not that if you put $5 in the tzedakah box, that God's going to give you $5 back, or 10 or 15 or 20, or make you a millionaire, as you hear on so many televangelists today. It's in the world to come. But that's the eternal reward. Do you know that most people who win the lottery lose all of their money and are bankrupt within 5 years? Easy come, easy go. Our master, our rabbi, taught us, do not store up for yourselves treasures in this world where moth and rust corrupt and the thief breaks in and steal, but rather lay for yourself treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust can corrupt and the thief cannot break in and steal. For where your heart is, there your treasure is also. And you only have today to choose between good and evil. The choice is only yours for now. You know that freedom of choice is going to be taken away from you. In Olam Haba, there is no freedom of choice. You will be like the angels of heaven. Yeshua himself says it. What does it mean, neither giving or taking in marriage? That you will not have the freedom to choose. You will not have the freedom to choose a wife. But you have now. You have today. And you are here to change the world. Our purpose here, yes, you can change the world. One person at a time, sometimes 5, sometimes 10, but we are here for the purpose of changing the world. And the Gimel teaches us to run to that event. Gimel's number is 3. We'll go quickly and we'll close. This is the Gematria. And 3 is the number of stability, of balance. As in, a stool has how many? At least 3. It starts with 3, right? 3 represents balance. So if you have a 2-legged stool, what? You have problems, right? The more legs you have, of course, the more balance you have. The sturdier it becomes, but 3 is the number of balance. So you have a unicycle, has 1 wheel. Can you ride a unicycle? Not many people can ride a unicycle. It takes austere dexterity and balance. A bicycle has 2. Many people can ride a bicycle, but not everybody. Neo cannot ride a bicycle. Kara cannot ride a bicycle. They don't have the balance. But they can ride tricycles because tricycles never fall over. I grew up, growing up, or as a young man, I should say, I owned motorcycles. I loved motorcycles. Rode them everywhere. Started when I was in college, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Used to ride my motorcycle up Lookout Mountain all the way to the top. curvy, 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 all the way up to the top, and then ride it all the way back down again. Love it. Every day, every day, every day I would ride up that mountain. When the boys were little, I had a couple of motorcycles, and I'd put a little helmet on their head and take them for rides, bring them. I would ride to church on my motorcycle, and I would take them. I love motorcycles. I got sick. Had to take chemo. Got chemo brain. Welcome to the club. Got chemo brain. Suffer from, vertigo. Can't keep my balance. My wife won't let me get a motorcycle. But you know, they have those spiders, those three-wheel motorcycles. I told her, I said, then I won't fall off. She just smiled. That's her kind way of saying, no. 3 is the number of stability. In the Mishnah says that the world stands on these 3 things. Torah, avodah, that's service, chesed, kindness. Torah, instruction. Avodah, we use that word is usually translated as worship. It literally means service. And chesed, kindness. You have the balance of the triad. You want Star Wars stuff? All right, here you go. You have the balance of the triad. The Ava, Chabed, Ruach HaKodesh. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. By the way, the modern day rabbis will tell you, we have no such thing. We've never believed in these things. Whatever, whatever, whatever. And I say, whatever, because it's not true. In fact, Kabbalah teaches these very things. Huh? But I'm saying in Judaism itself, away from the Torah. The Jews say we've never taught these things, and I'm saying baloney. I'm calling your bluff. Because the truth is, yes, baloney. The truth is, not kosher. The truth is, they did teach these things. That's why we have them. That they were 3 distinct personalities? No. But these things are there. Three pillars of the tree of life. The pillar of chesed, mercy. The pillar of gevurah, judgment. And the pillar of tiferet, direct access. Let me show you something. I'm sorry, but you see, when you take Hebrew lessons from me, it's not just about learning your ABCs. Because there's so much more into it. Why? Because God ordained it. So you have chesed, you have gevurah, and you have tiferet. Three pillars. Why? Too far to one side, and you're no longer balanced. Too far to the other side, and you're no longer balanced. Only with the 3 do you have balance. You ready? How many crosses were there? The Bible is specific. Juan, not Juan. In the middle is Yeshua. On the one side is a thief who says, yes, you come down off of the cross and take us with you. This one over here looks at this one with spite, with hatred, animosity. How dare you speak to him this way? You and I deserve to be here to receive this punishment. It is just, but this man has done nothing wrong. What? Then he says to this one, remember me when you enter into your kingdom. Direct access. And he says to this one, today you shall be with me in Pardes. Pardes is an orchard. Just so happens that they're hanging on trees. You think Kabbalah is wrong? You think that there's no such thing? You think it's right there. It's in the very crucifixion. And it is through this that you have stability. Is there judgment? Yes. Don't let people tell you that there's not going to be a judgment. There's going to be a judgment. But there's also chesed. And through chesed, you find tiferet. The beauty of it all is that you may boldly come before the throne of grace. You have access. We have three fathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. There are three levels of the Jewish soul, the Kohanim, the Levim, and the Yisraelim. Finally, in conclusion, the Gimel represents Goel. Ga'al Yisrael, redeem Israel. Goel, our Redeemer, our Savior. We find the demonstration of this in the story of Ruth, that Boaz was Goel, that he was the near kinsman redeemer for Ruth. Boaz represents Yeshua. He is the Mashiach for Ruth. And Hashem himself is the ultimate Goel. Yud and Vav, we told you Yud and Vav equals, that make up the Gimel, the Yud and the Vav that make up the Gimel. Yud, how many? 10. Vav is 6. Equaling the same as Hoveh, to be, existence. Because you exist, you're a rich man. Because you have a home with a wife and children, you are a rich man. The rich man running to give to the poor is equal to one's existence. This is the purpose for which what is your purpose in life? What is my purpose in life? Your purpose in life is to help others. Giving is living. Say it. Giving is living. Say it. Giving is living. Say it. Giving is living. You want a life? Get a life. Give yourself. That's the giving. Quit being the penguin, pushing the other penguins into the water to see if the shark is there. Get a life. Quit sitting around bemoaning about how bored you are. Right? How you don't have anything to do, how you have no purpose, how you've lost yourself, you can't find your way, you need to go find yourself, all that kind of stuff. Look, you have a purpose in life. And your purpose in life is to give yourself to others, to lift them up. You exalt yourself by exalting others. You lift up yourself when you lift up others. Have you ever noticed that an anchor is a drag on the boat? Huh? When the anchor's out there, when the anchor's overboard, have you ever noticed how it's a drag on the boat? In fact, in the middle of a storm, even our modern warships, in the middle of when they're going through a storm, they will actually drop their anchors. Even when the ocean's too deep, they still drop their anchors. Why? Because the anchor becomes a drag on the boat, and it helps to keep the boat facing into the waves, not getting turned sideways. But they say anchors away, meaning way, W-E-I-G-H, to weigh, meaning weight, meaning what? It holds you down. It holds you back. And those people who are pulling you down and holding us back, they're weighing on us. Well, you have a choice. You can do three things. You can do these three things. Number one, you can let them continue weighing on you. Number two, you can cut them off. Number three, you can pull them in. But when you pull them in, when you pull in the anchor, what happens? Now your boat is free. Because there's equilibrium, there's balance. You don't have the weight holding you back. Saying, when you elevate others, you elevate yourself. When you pick up, when you exalt someone else, you are in fact exalting yourself. You're lifting yourself. And so that concludes today's lesson. God bless you. Shavuot Tov. Have a good week. Next week, Dalit.